I was on my way to my daughter's house for dinner, looking forward to a warm family evening, when my lawyer sent me a message. Call me urgently. My heart skipped a beat. I dialed the number, and what he told me about my daughter shocked me. You won't believe what she wanted to do. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My hands were steady on the quarterly reports. When my phone buzzed, the screen lit up with Michael's name. Call me immediately. Emergency regarding Ita. Mr. The pen slipped from my fingers. 30 years of building Hansen Tech, and I'd never seen Michael Reed write emergency about family. I dialed before the screen went dark. Why? His voice was professional steel. I need to warn you, Ita filed a lawsuit. She wants you, declared incompetent, to run Hansen Tech. The words hit like ice water. What are you saying? That's impossible. She's my daughter. She has a group of shareholders. They claim you've lost your edge due to emotional instability. I dropped into my chair through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seattle's skyline blurred. The same view I'd watched for decades while building this company for her. How much time does she have? Hearing in 1 week. We need to act fast. My mouth went dry. 1 week. Why? She's been preparing this for months. The documentation is extensive. Financial records showing supposedly erratic decisions, testimonies from board meetings. I stood pacing between my desk and the window. Rain streaked the glass like tears I couldn't shed. What testimonies? Claims about emotional outbursts. Questionable strategic choices. They're painting you as a man losing control. That's absurd. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I shown too much passion in recent meetings? Defended old strategies too fiercely? I know it is, but they have paperwork. Why? Lots of it. The office felt smaller. Suddenly awards lining the walls, photos of groundbreaking ceremonies, all meaningless if my own daughter could take it away. Who else knows? The filing is sealed for now, but the shareholders she's recruited, James Corbin, Patricia Wheeler, 3 others, they're meeting tomorrow. I gripped the phone tighter. She recruited them with promises of higher dividends under new leadership. Her leadership, the betrayal cut deeper than any business loss I'd faced. Ita, my brilliant, ambitious daughter, the one I'd groomed to eventually take over, but not like this, never like this. What do you need from me? Everything. Financial records, medical documentation proving your competence, character witnesses. We're building a defense from scratch in 7 days. I closed my eyes. 48 hours ago, I'd been planning to mention her promotion to CEO within the year. Now she was trying to destroy me. Why? Are you there? I'm here. My voice sounded foreign. Schedule whatever meetings you need. I'll clear my calendar. Good. And why? Don't confront her yet. We need to understand their strategy first. After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness. Seattle's lights twinkled below, but the warmth had left the room, left my life. I gathered my things mechanically. Coat, briefcase, keys. The same routine I'd followed for 30 years, but everything had changed in one phone call. The elevator descended in silence. 50 floors down, my legs felt unsteady. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, trying to make sense of it. Ita was having dinner with her family tonight. Our weekly tradition. Should I go pretend nothing had happened? The thought of sitting across from her, making small talk while she planned my destruction. But maybe I needed to see her face, study her expressions, understand who my daughter had become. I started the engine and pulled into Seattle's evening traffic, heading toward Bellevue, toward answers I wasn't sure I wanted to find. Ita's front door opened before I could knock. She stood there in her cream sweater, smile perfectly calibrated. Dad, right on time. Her hug felt rehearsed. Come in. It's freezing out there. I studied her face for cracks in the mask, found none. Sophie's been asking about Grandpa all day. Ita led me through the foyer. She drew you another picture. The house smelled like roasted chicken and lies. I followed her into the open kitchen where Trevor was setting the table. He looked up with nervous energy. Why, Good to see you. His handshake lingered too long. Can I get you a drink? Wine, something stronger. Wine's fine. I watched Ita move around the kitchen. Efficient, controlled, the same way she handled board meetings. Sophie bounded in, wearing paint-stained overalls. Grandpa, I lifted her easily, grateful for something genuine in this house of pretense. What's this? I hear about a picture. It's us at the office. See, that's you at your big desk, and that's me in the spinning chair. She thrust a crayon drawing at me. Stick figures in what resembled Hanson Tech's logo colors. Innocent, trusting, everything her mother wasn't. It's beautiful, sweetheart. I kissed her forehead, catching Ita watching us. Something flickered across her expression. Guilt, calculation. Sophie, wash your hands for dinner, Trevor said. His voice too bright. Ita moved between stove and counter. With practiced efficiency. Dad, you look tired. Maybe you should rest more. The loaded question. I met her eyes. Work keeps me sharp. By the way, how are things in the finance department? She paused, wooden spoon halfway to her mouth for tasting. Let's not talk about work at dinner. Since when? I kept my tone light. You usually love discussing quarterly projections. Not tonight. She turned back to the stove. Family time is sacred. Sacred like loyalty used to be. Trevor cleared his throat. Sophie drew that picture during her art time today. She's been talking about visiting the office again. Maybe next week, I said, wondering if I'd still have an office next week. Sophie climbed into her booster seat. Grandpa, can you tell the story about the first computer? Which story, sweetheart? When you built the company in the garage. I glanced at Ita. She was slicing chicken with surgical precision. That was before your mommy was born. We had nothing but ideas and determination. And Grandpa, Elna helped, Sophie added. The knife paused. Ita's shoulders tensed. Yes, I said softly. Grandpa, Elna helped with everything. Silence stretched. Trevor filled it by turning on background music. Something classical and safe. Dinner proceeded with artificial normally. Sophie chattered about preschool. Trevor discussed his latest architectural project. Ita asked polite questions about my health, my sleep, whether I was eating properly. Every word felt like reconnaissance. The chicken is excellent, I said. Mom's recipe. Ita's voice carried an edge. She always said cooking was about love, not perfection. Another loaded statement. Elna had said that usually while trying to get me to spend less time at the office. She was wise about many things. Yes, she was. Ita's fork clicked against her plate. She understood priorities. The accusation hung in the air. Sophie looked between us, sensing the undercurrent. Grandpa, why are you sad? Out of the mouths of babes. I'm not sad, sweetheart. Just thinking about what? About how much I love our family dinners. Ita's eyes met mine across the table. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to wait by the window for me to come home, but the moment passed. More wine, Trevor asked, already reaching for the bottle. The evening crawled forward. Dessert coffee. Sophie showing me her latest drawings. Normal family rituals masking extraordinary betrayal. At 8:15 I stood to leave. Thank you for dinner. As always, it was perfect. Ita walked me to the door. Dad, are you sure you're okay? You seem different tonight. I studied her face. The concern looked genuine. Maybe it was. Maybe she'd convinced herself this was for my own good. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just reflecting on how much Hanson means to me. To our family. Something shifted in her expression. Guard going up. Drive safely. The roads are slick tonight. I kissed her cheek. She didn't pull away. But she didn't lean into it either. Good night, Ata. Good night, Dad. The door closed behind me with a soft click. I stood on her front steps, rain beginning to fall again. Through the window, I could see her clearing dishes, moving efficiently, methodically, planning my destruction. I parked overlooking Lake Union, city lights reflecting off the black water. My hands shook as I dialed Michael again. Wise, how did dinner go? Like a performance. She knows how to act concerned while stabbing me in the back. Rain drummed on the windshield. Tell me everything. She's been preparing for 6 months. She has records of your emotional outbursts at meetings. What outbursts? I've always controlled myself. The Anderson acquisition meeting. When you rejected their lowball offer, apparently, you raised your voice. She documented it as irrational anger threatening company relationships. I remembered that meeting. I'd been passionate, not angry. There was a difference. What else? Financial decisions. She's labeled as sentiment over strategy. The charity partnership with Elenena's foundation. The employee retention program. Things that cost money but weren't strictly profitable. My throat tightened. Those were good decisions, I know, but she's framing them as emotional choices rather than business logic. I started the engine, needing to move. What's her timeline? Hearing next Friday. If she wins, she gets temporary control while you undergo psychological evaluation. And if I refuse, the shareholders can vote you out anyway. She's got enough backing. I drove through empty Seattle streets, processing the scope of her betrayal. Not just attacking me, but dismantling everything I'd built with careful precision. At home I climbed to my study. 30 years of memories lined the walls, awards, photos, the detritus of a successful life. I opened my safe and pulled out Elna's letters, the ones she'd written during her final months, when she knew she was dying. When she tried to warn me about priorities. We needs your attention more than the company does. She thinks you don't love her. I dismissed Elena's concerns then. Ita was successful, independent, thriving. How could she doubt my love? But doubt apparently had festered into something darker. I found the folder marked Ita personal school records, report cards, photos from company events, where she'd stood beside me, proud and eager. When had that pride curdled into resentment? My computer chimed with an encrypted email from Michael, legal documents. Ita's formal complaint dense with accusations and medical recommendations. Subject displays increasing emotional volatility and attachment to outdated business practices. His refusal to embrace modern corporate strategies suggests diminished cognitive flexibility, consistent with early-stage dementia or depression following spousal loss. Depression following spousal loss. They were using Elenena's death against me. Using my grief as evidence of incompetence. I poured 3 fingers of scotch and kept reading. Character witnesses who'd testified to my declining judgment. Financial analysts who'd argue my decisions were emotionally driven. Medical experts prepared to suggest I needed compassionate intervention. A full-scale character assassination wrapped in concern for my well-being. The brilliance was undeniable and painful. At 1 a.m., I closed the laptop and sat in darkness. Rain continued against the windows. The house felt enormous and empty. Elena's photograph watched from my desk. She'd known this day would come, had tried to prevent it. She doesn't understand why you love the company more than her, but I didn't love the company more.